Welcome to my finance partner. This month we'll be unpacking how tax works for individuals and explaining to you how the various deductions work. Starting at the beginning, how does tax work? A term or phrase you may commonly have heard is reference to the tax tables. What does this mean? Well, very simply, SARS taxes income at different levels. As one moves up in terms of the amount of income that they receive, one would move into a higher level of tax. SARS will tax the additional income at a higher rate and then work out what the total tax will be. In terms of the actual tax rates that apply, these range from 18% when you're in the lowest or the first income tax bracket, up to as high as 45% when you're in the top income tax brackets. In terms of relief and what relief does SARS give you? SARS has what they call annual tax rebates, which are given to taxpayers. What this basically means is that SARS allows a portion of your income not to be subject to tax. What are those amounts? Well, if you are under 65 years of age, the annual amount is 95,750 Rand. SARS then gives taxpayers between the age of 65 and 75 an additional amount of income that they won't be subject to tax on. So individuals sitting between 65 and 75 years of age, your tax-free amount for the year is 148,217 Rand. And then lastly, for individuals that are older than 75 years of age, SARS allows a further allowance which takes taxable income to 165,689 Rand. In terms of additional allowances, SARS also provides a medical aid tax credit which taxpayers can claim against their tax liability. There is also a recently introduced solar tax incentive. We will touch on the solar tax incentive a little later on in our video and explain this in more detail. Another item just to chat about and touch on is any interest that is earned. SARS does provide tax-free amounts against interest. These amounts are for anybody under the age of 65, 23,500 Rand, and if you're over the age of 65, you can earn up to 34,500 Rand in interest before SARS will start subjecting any of that interest to tax. Question we're often asked is, what allowances or deductions can I claim against my taxable income in order to reduce my tax liability? There unfortunately are not a lot of allowances or deductions that you can claim. To summarize very high level, the allowances that would be available to you are travel allowances. This is for individuals who use their car for business purposes and are paid a sum by the employer to reimburse them or compensate them for using their private vehicle. When you submit your tax return, SARS will require some details for you, and based on the tables that apply and that SARS has put together, you may qualify for a deduction against your taxable income. SARS will only give you a deduction of basically on the percentage of business travel versus total private travel that you have done in your vehicle. Another deduction that SARS gives you is on your medical expenses. Any medical costs that you've incurred in excess of 7.5% of your taxable income, SARS will give you a further tax rebate on those expenses. The calculation is a little bit more complicated, so we would advise you to contact your tax professional to get the details on how exactly that calculation works. Another deduction that SARS gives you is if you make contributions to a retirement fund. This could be a retirement annuity, a pension fund, or a provident fund. SARS allows you to claim as a deduction 27.5% of your income up to a maximum of 350,000 Rand per year. A common question we're asked is around home offices. If I work from home, can I claim a deduction? What deductions am I allowed? The answer to that is yes. However, SARS does limit the deduction to the percentage of your house that is actually used to render that service. Very important consideration is that SARS does require it to be a designated area that is separately identifiable. You can't tell SARS that you sit and work at your dining room table and that is your home office. SARS will not accept that. They will want to see a specific room that is then kitted out and can be used as a home office. Lastly, just touching on the latest announcement, which is very topical at the moment, and that is that SARS has offered relief for solar installations in private residences. The allowance that SARS has given is in the form of a rebate. What does this mean? Well, it's actually a deduction against your tax liability. Okay, so once you've calculated how much tax you should pay SARS, based on the tax tables that we spoke about previously, you are then entitled to deduct the rebate that SARS will allow against solar installations. In terms of how that deduction is calculated, SARS will allow you 25% of the cost of the solar panels that you have installed, subject to a maximum of 15,000 Rand. So very, very simply, if you carry out a solar installation at home, it costs you 100,000 Rand for the panels. SARS's deduction is limited to the 15,000 Rand, whereas the 25% would give you 25,000 Rand. Another important point to note is that SARS will not claim anything back from you should you sell the house and you've claimed this tax deduction. So that is something just to consider. However, if you sell the solar panels within a period of 12 months after you've put them on your roof and or claimed the deduction, SARS will then look to recoup some of the cost or the rebate that they advanced to you. The video that we've just done, it's not envisaged that it will give you full details in terms of the tax deductions. So please reach out to us and let us help you with your tax, and or if you do have any queries, reach out to us to get more details.